Everything you are today, your fears, that skill that suddenly emerged, even that love that arrived without warning, is not a coincidence. Every detail of your life is part of a story much older than you. I'm not talking about destiny. I'm talking about reincarnation. You may carry secrets from other lives in your soul. Today, we're going to uncover 9 signs that prove it. It doesn't matter if you're skeptical or already believe, because even your doubt may be a memory trying to come back. Reincarnation is an ancient concept, very ancient, older than the great civilizations we study in school. In simple terms, it suggests that our journey doesn't begin when we are born, nor does it end when we pass. Life is therefore a continuous sequence of experiences, learning, and transformations. Think of those people who seem to have deep wisdom from a young age, while others struggle to understand even the most basic lessons of life. Or think of those children who show astonishing talents without ever having studied. These are questions that lead many to consider that existence is not as simple as it seems. But if that's the case, why don't we remember our past lives? Many spiritual traditions explain that the veil of forgetfulness is necessary. It allows us to start over without the emotional baggage of the past. Imagine carrying all the pain, losses, and traumas from previous existences. It would be unbearable for most. Still, some clues escape. I myself have lived moments like this. Once, while traveling to a country I had never visited, I felt as if I were returning home. The streets, the smell of the air, the sound of the language, everything felt familiar. There was no rational explanation, and at that moment, I understood. Maybe there is much more about me than I realize. For the curious, this country was England, more specifically, London. Is anyone here from there? Continuing, just like the introduction of a book that grips us from the very first lines, the idea of reincarnation has the power to capture the mind and heart. It is a belief rooted in humanity's oldest and most respected traditions. By exploring who you have been, you better understand who you are today. Your tastes, your inclinations, even those characteristics that seem unexplainable, gain new meaning. It's like putting together pieces of a puzzle that until now was incomplete. And from here comes the practical part. How do you know if you've lived other lives? How do you identify the signs your spirit has been trying to show? There are clear and powerful signs that many people report throughout life. We're not talking about coincidences or fleeting impressions. They are deep marks that leave visible traces for those who decide to pay attention. Situations that once seemed weird or meaningless become part of a great mosaic about who you truly are. As you learn about each of the signs, reflect on how many of these signs have appeared in your life. So, let's move on. Sign 1, intense and frequent déjà vu. You've experienced this. You're in a completely new place, with no memories and no rational reason to feel connected. But suddenly, it's as if time has turned back. The smell of the air, the background sounds, the way the light hits, everything feels eerily familiar. For a long time, science tried to explain déjà vu as a momentary glitch in the brain, a processing error. But those who have gone through truly intense experiences know it's not just mental confusion. It's something deeper, something that touches the soul directly. For many scholars and spiritual traditions, déjà vu is a breach between the present and the past. It's as if, for a brief moment, a memory from another life emerges, breaking through the layers of forgetfulness that usually separate us from who we once were. Why would your heart race in front of a street you've never seen? Why would you feel like you've already participated in a conversation that's supposedly happening for the first time? These moments are not random. They are flashes, marks we carry from other existences. And here's something important. The more frequent and intense the déjà vu, the greater the chance it has roots in past lives. People who report deep déjà vu often describe them as vivid and emotional experiences. They are not simple sensations of, "This is familiar." They are moments when everything, absolutely everything, seems to have happened exactly that way before. I'll tell you a true story. I met a person who was always extremely rational. They never cared about spirituality or concepts like reincarnation until one day that changed. They traveled to a small, ancient village in a country they had never visited before. It was a historic place, full of narrow alleys and buildings that seemed frozen in time. As soon as they arrived, something happened. While walking, they were overtaken by a strange, yet very familiar feeling. Without ever having been there, they knew exactly where each street ended. They felt in their body the path they should follow, as if they were returning to a place left behind centuries ago. They turned a corner and stopped in front of a small square. At that moment, tears came to their eyes for no reason. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't happiness. It was longing. Later, when talking to locals, she discovered that the square used to be known centuries ago for hosting markets and public gatherings. The most curious part, she described in detail an old fountain that once stood in the center of the square, something that no longer existed but was recorded in the city's old archive. At that moment, everything made sense to her. The déjà vu wasn't just a brain glitch. It was a memory of the soul. It was a piece of who she had been, escaping from deep within the unconscious to say, "We've been here before," and that's how déjà vu reveals itself. When it happens deeply, it's a sign that some experiences are so impactful. They transcend lifetimes and resist being forgotten. So the next time you feel like you've already seen, lived, or gone through something that should be new, don't ignore it. It could be your soul trying to remind you who you really are and everything you have already lived. Sign 2, instant connections. Some people enter our lives slowly. They take time to form bonds and need time for the relationship to mature, but others seem to already be there when they arrive. It's immediate, deep, and inexplicable. The connection happens at the first glance, the first gesture. No effort is needed. You feel like you know that person as if they were part of a story that didn't start. Now, this is a reunion of souls, and when it happens, it's one of the strongest signs that we've lived other lives. These instant connections are common for those who have traveled many journeys. People and places become imprinted on our essence. When we meet them again, even in totally different contexts, the recognition is immediate. It's no different with people. I've seen this happen right before my eyes. Two people who had just met and already seemed like old friends. The exchange was so natural, so familiar, that it was impossible not to notice. The laughter, the looks, the way they understood each other without long explanations. It was as if they were simply picking up something that had existed for a long time. And the most curious thing is that they themselves noticed it. In a short time, they began to comment on how it seemed like they had known each other for years, finishing each other's sentences, predicting reactions, even remembering similar situations they had lived. Every detail reinforced this instant harmony. So, no one forced anything. It just happened. This type of connection is different. It goes beyond affinity, or the famous instant chemistry. When we go through multiple existences, we create deep bonds with other souls. They are friends, loves, partners on the journey who, from time to time, find each other again. And when this happens, time does not matter. It could have been one life, 2 or 10, but the essence recognizes itself. You feel it in the comfort the person's presence brings, in how easily you understand each other, in the silence that is never uncomfortable. The same happens with places. There are places that embrace you the moment you arrive. You step there for the first time, and everything feels right, as if your feet know exactly where to step, and your heart beats in rhythm with that environment. It's not about charm or beauty. It's deeper. It's a reunion. Some call it destiny, others coincidence. But when these connections happen so intensely and naturally, the meaning is clear. You have been with these souls or in these places before. Life is not only made of beginning, it is made of continuities, of stories that cross through time and from time to time, intersect again to teach, heal, or simply continue. Sign 3, wisdom and talent. Some people seem to carry something extra. From an early age, they show surprising abilities without much study or practice. It comes naturally, as if they brought something ready from somewhere else. Anyone who has seen a child pick up an instrument and play, as if they had done it for years, knows what I mean. Or that ease in learning languages, leading people, or understanding complex subjects, as if they have always been part of them. That's not luck, nor a mere gift. It's accumulated experience. When we pass through many lives, we bring with us fragments of what we've already learned. That's why sometimes we start something from scratch, yet it feels like it's already within us. My sister Letitia is like that. Since she was 8 years old, without ever having taken lessons, she drew with impressive precision and sensitivity. When we asked where she learned or how she knew how to do it, she simply said that she felt how it should be done and just drew. And that's exactly it. In many cases, what we call innate talents are nothing more than deep memories of skills we developed in other journeys. In past lives, maybe this person was an artist, spending years and years practicing. Today, the body is different, but the soul remembers. And this isn't limited to arts or technical abilities. Sometimes, it's wisdom about life. It's that child who gives advice you would expect from someone with decades of experience. These are clear signs, wisdom that arrives without warning, and talents that emerge without explanation. So, if something in you feels too natural, pay attention. It may not be new. It may simply be your soul showing what it has known how to do for a very long time. Sign 4. Spontaneous memories or vivid dreams. Some memories appear out of nowhere. They don't make sense, have no clear origin in this life, and yet carry a strange force. In certain cases, they are dreams so real that they leave a lasting impression upon waking, as if they really happened. You see yourself in places you've never visited, wearing clothes from distant eras, dealing with situations that aren't part of your current story. And even without explanation, every feels incredibly familiar. This is more common than it seems. When the mind relaxes and defenses lower, as happens during sleep, past life memories can emerge. They come as flashes, complete stories, or sensations that transcend logic. A follower once sent me a story about her recurring dreams in which she lived in an ancient village, always playing the same role. At first, she thought it was just imagination, but the details were so vivid that they began to trouble her. At one point, she searched for historical images from that era and was shocked to find places and symbols. This goes beyond a creative dream. It is a memory of the soul trying to reach the surface, and it doesn't just happen while sleeping. In moments of deep relaxation, or even during everyday conversations, certain images may suddenly appear in the mind for no apparent reason. Suddenly, a scene becomes clear. You don't know where it came from, but you know it's not just imagination. This is the soul manifesting itself. They are records that escape from the unconscious and reveal themselves when we are ready to receive them. The soul keeps everything. Sign 5. Fears or phobias without logical explanation. Some fears arise without a clear reason, and yet they are there. They manifest intensely, sometimes since childhood, and defy any rational explanation. Fear of water without ever having drowned. Panic of heights without ever falling from a high place. Claustrophobia without having been confined. These are automatic reactions that can't be explained just by what has happened so far. When this happens, the answer may lie in past life experiences. When something was traumatic enough, it tends to leave deep marks that transcend time. These marks manifest as blockages, fears, and phobias. It's not conscious, it's instinctive. The body reacts before the mind even understands. It is the soul protecting itself from reliving old pains. These signs are clues that point to unresolved issues that need to be faced. Ignoring these fears only prolongs the cycle. When we recognize they may come from past lives, we open space to understand them and, more importantly, overcome them. Fear loses strength when illuminated by awareness. It ceases to be an inexplicable obstacle and becomes an opportunity for healing and liberation. Living with phobias that make no sense is like carrying weights that no longer belong to this journey. Understanding their origin is the first step to leaving them behind. The soul does not want to be stuck in the past. It wants to move forward. And for that, it is necessary to look inward and face what still echoes from old stories. Sign 6. Fascination with different eras and cultures. Some people feel an inexplicable attraction to certain historical periods or specific civilizations. It's not simple curiosity or a fleeting interest. It's a deep, almost visceral fascination. Something that stirs strong emotions, like longing for a time when technically they never lived. This type of connection with a specific time or culture is one of the clearest signs of a possible experience in another life. The soul recognizes what it has already experienced, and even if the mind does not consciously remember, something lights up inside. When this interest appears intensely, persistently, and with deep feelings, it usually points to unconscious memories of a past existence. The language, the clothing, the rituals, the architecture, the symbols, everything awakens a sense of belonging that can't be explained only by external influence or education. Sometimes this fascination also manifests through works of fiction, old films that evoke other eras, stories set in medieval worlds, or narratives about journeys and kingdoms, like in The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings. It feels like you are part of that universe. It's like seeing those imaginary lands and feeling you've walked through similar places before. When this happens, it is yet another indication that the soul connects with patterns and memories, because even fantasy, in many cases, carries archetypes and symbols that speak directly to the deep unconscious, awakening memories that only the soul can access. Sign 7. Feeling like an old soul. Some people seem to carry the weight of many experiences even when they are still young. From an early age, they show maturity in their words, in the way they deal with challenges, and in the deep gaze that seems to see beyond the obvious. While many get lost in distractions and superficialities, these people observe, reflect, and often prefer silence to meaningless conversation. It's as if they already intuitively know that life is made of cycles, ups and downs, meetings and farewells. This feeling of being different, of thinking more deeply and not fitting entirely into the usual concerns of those around them, is a clear sign that the soul has already traveled long paths. The expression, old soul, is no coincidence. It represents exactly that. Someone who has lived much, accumulated lessons, and now carries that invisible baggage. It's not about being better or smarter. It's about having gone through enough experiences to see life through different eyes. Those who feel this usually notice that certain situations do not affect them the same way they affect others. There is a calmness, a patience, and even a certain melancholy that arise from within. This happens because, for these souls, many of the illusions of this existence have already been overcome in past lives. They are not easily swayed by trends, are not impressed by shallow things, and prefer to connect with what is true and essential. The feeling of being an old soul also reflects in relationships. It's common for these people to attract others who seek guidance or comfort, even without realizing it. It's as if they naturally emanate an energy of wisdom and warmth that others feel and trust. Behind all this is the silent memory of past journeys. Every challenge overcome, every love lived, and every loss endured left marks that shaped the essence and now show themselves in simple gestures. When you feel this way, different, deep, often out of place, understand this. It is a sign that your soul has seen and lived much more than the eyes of this life can show. Sign 8. Some situations repeat themselves at different stages of life, as if they were chapters of the same story being told with new characters. Relationships that follow the same pattern, emotional challenges that return in different forms, mistakes that repeat, even when the intention was to act differently. It's as if something is trying to show you a truth that has not yet been understood. These cycles are not bad luck, punishment, or coincidence. They are lessons the soul still needs to fully assimilate. When the experience is not integrated, it repeats. And sometimes these repetitions didn't start in this life. They come from far away. They are unfinished stories, unresolved emotions, and unfulfilled promises. The soul, in its quest for balance and evolution, attracts circumstances that help close what has been left open. That's why, when you look at these patterns honestly, you realize they carry a message. Something is being proposed there, something that requires courage to face and awareness to transform. Many of these cycles present themselves through themes like abandonment, rejection, authority, dependence, loss, internal conflicts, and even addictions, which we made an exclusive video about. They appear as external experiences, but are reflections of an internal movement of the soul. Recognizing this changes everything, because from that point on, you stop living on autopilot and begin to see meaning in the repetitions. Pain gains context. Life's persistence reveals itself as the soul's own persistence for growth. These patterns are like mirrors. They reveal what still needs to be healed, integrated, and released. When the lesson is truly understood, the cycle ends. The experience no longer repeats because the soul has finally assimilated what it came to learn. And this is liberating. It is the point where life stops, seeming like a sequence of tests. Before we move on to sign 9, I want to remind you that today, May 11th, is the last day to take advantage of the Mother's Day coupon for the Quantum Thinking Challenge. The coupon will be valid until midnight today, so check the first pinned comment and enjoy. And to my subscribers who are mothers, happy Mother's Day to you. Thank you for being here. Sign 9, the search for something greater. Even with everything already lived in this life, some carry a certain restlessness. It's as if, deep down, something is always missing. No matter how much they achieve or how many experiences they accumulate, this feeling persists. It's as if part of them knows there's something greater waiting to be found. This constant sense of seeking without knowing exactly what it is often a direct reflection of spiritual memory. Souls that have crossed many lives carry with them the echo of what they have lived and what they still wish to accomplish. They know, even if unconsciously, that there is continuity. That's why nothing feels completely new or sufficient. There is a hunger for meaning, for answers that go beyond the visible and the material. It is the soul's impulse towards fulfillment. Someone who feels this way usually does not settle for shallow explanations or empty routines. They seek meaning in everything, in relationships, in choices, and in the purpose of being here. Often this search manifests as an interest in spirituality, philosophy, or inner journeys. When this feeling is persistent, it becomes a powerful sign. It says that the soul is ready to retrieve memories, integrate lessons. Seeking something greater is not dissatisfaction. It is ancient wisdom. The soul knows and has always known. And that is why, even without fully understanding, you feel you are still in the middle of the path. Sign 10. Bonus. Energetic sensitivity. Some people carry a sensitivity that goes beyond the ordinary. They easily perceive the mood of a place, feel the energy of the people around them, and absorb emotions with an intensity that can sometimes be overwhelming. They are the ones who get exhausted in crowded places, who are easily moved, and who, without realizing it, absorb the pains and joys of others. This hypersensitivity is not weakness. It is the sign of an experienced soul. Souls that have gone through many journeys naturally become more open and receptive. They have learned in past lives to connect deeply with what surrounds them. That's why, even without conscious effort, they pick up on frequencies that others do not perceive. This manifests as intense empathy, sharp intuition, and a tendency to be sought out by others for advice and comfort. They are the ones people turn to when they need support, even if they have never said so out loud. This sensitivity is both a gift and a challenge. It requires maturity, not to be dominated by external emotions. But, when well understood, it becomes a powerful tool for connection and healing. Feeling what others feel, perceiving what is not said, and intuiting paths is a sign that the soul has traveled enough roads to see beyond the obvious. When empathy and sensitivity appear so naturally and intensely, it is yet another proof that the spirit carries the mark of other lives. But this role also requires care. Feeling so much, so deeply, can be exhausting. Absorbing what belongs to others without realizing it can create emotional imbalance, distract from one's own life, and slowly overwhelm the mind and body. That's why those with this sensitivity need to learn to protect themselves, to create healthy boundaries, recognize when they are giving too much, and cultivate moments of silence, rest, and inner reconnection. This is not selfishness, it's preservation. The sensitive soul needs space to regain balance, or it ends up carrying what isn't theirs. Cleansing energy through meditations, baths, conscious breathing, contact with nature, or spiritual practices is essential to avoid getting lost in so much feeling. Sensitivity is a bridge, not a prison. When well cared for, it becomes a powerful channel of healing for oneself and for others. But when ignored or neglected, it turns into a burden that accumulates and drains vital energy. So if you feel too much, if you perceive what others don't say, if you are constantly sought out to listen and offer comfort, take care of yourself. Because those who feel the world so deeply also need a refuge of their own to remain whole. Looking at all these signs is not about being stuck in the past. It's about illuminating the present. It's about recognizing that life is a continuity and that every experience carries the echo of ancient journey. Knowing that you have lived other lives is not fantasy. It is awareness. It is part of your awakening. When you understand this, everything changes. Patterns stop being prison. Pain gains meaning, and encounters are seen as reunions. The soul wants to evolve. It wants to remember, and the invitation now is for you to take the next step. Which of these signs has appeared in your life? What story is your soul trying to tell? Your experience might be exactly what another soul needs to hear to recognize itself as well.